Today on the Heart-Led Changemakers podcast, I am thrilled to welcome a truly multi-dimensional creative force, Michelle Stark. Michelle is the founder of Aleph Studio, a space where design, magic, and transformation converge. With over 15 years of experience in branding and graphic design, Michelle brings a rare blend of intuitive insight, creative mastery, and soulful pragmatism to her work. What began as a design and branding studio has evolved into something much deeper. It's a sanctuary for creativity, self-discovery, and the alchemical power of visual storytelling. Michelle's approach is rooted in Jungian psychology, active imagination, and a deep belief that creativity, when nurtured with authenticity and playfulness, can be a powerful force for personal and collective change. Michelle, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to deep dive into your world today.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Can you write my bio for me? That was amazing. That was very succinct and very on point. That's exactly what I do and who I am at the world at this moment. So thank you for
I can
putting that
send
out
it,
there in
I'll
such a
send it to
beautiful
you.
intro. Yeah, thank you. I'd love that. Some gold in there.
I love it. So, Michelle, let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to create this work, and how did your background in design and magic come together?
Yeah, it's a big long story. It's a big long story. I don't want to tell the whole big long story, but I want to tell you the most important parts. I was always a person that had no idea what she wanted to do when she grew up, and I tried a billion different things, none of them really quite successfully because none of them felt quite right. And when I got to age 30 and went through my Saturn return, I decided that I was going to be a graphic designer out of nowhere. I was not someone that was overly creative at all. When I wanted to do something like that, all of my family and friends thought that was quite bizarre and a little bit out of left field. But luckily, they were happy to support me in that. And I dove into that and found quite a calling. And I felt very at home and I loved it. And so I tried that out and I went and worked for high-end studios and worked for other people, which was wonderful and I learned so much. But it got to a point where I wanted to work for myself and I just had a deep feeling inside and a deep drive inside that the right way to do that was to somehow merge the two things that I loved the most in life and the two things that I was the most interested in, that being design and creativity and magic. And so I think subconsciously it was a way for me to find my people. I felt like I didn't really fit into places and I really wanted I wanted a bit of community and I wanted to meet other people that were, similarly inclined with me. And so I worked for myself for a little while and it wasn't until 2018 that I branded as Aleph Studio. And that was the big culmination point of me bringing both of those worlds and both of those loves together. And yeah, it was a hit. It was really successful. I became booked out for months. I still am most times of the year. It's been like a good 5, 7 years now of that. But now, and I do love that, and I probably will always be a designer. And I love the branding process because I'm obsessed with identity and helping people find what their inner magic is. But these days, my business looks a little bit different than it has in the past. And that's because I've felt another call, had one of those other creative urges that creative humans get, something that won't leave them alone. And that is me now stepping into a bit of a different role, similar but different, where I'm just feeling called to present to people and empower and inspire people that might not think they're very creative or naturally creative, and encourage them to see that they absolutely are, that creativity is a birthright and that it's something really important for humanity to move us forward into a better world. So by nerding out and sharing my love of magic and creativity now, I guess this is my little way of making the world a little bit better of a place and doing my change work, as it were. So this is where I find myself now.
I love that so much. I can so relate to the Saturn return because for me, my whole world turned upside down, and I had a spiritual awakening then as well. And my family thought that I was, starting to lose my mind as well because I stepped into kinesiology. So I left my corporate background for something that they didn't understand. I mean, people still don't understand what kinesiology is really now, but back
Yeah,
then, more
that's
than
right.
15 years ago, it was even more strange. But I love that you just followed your instincts regardless. And I love the journey that you've been on because you are creating, the most amazing inspired work, but now you're actually helping others step into that for themselves as well. And that really is a gift. And when you can start to teach people what you do, that's, that feels so fulfilling, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's really interesting at the moment because I'm doing these sort of two streams of work at the moment, two streams of my business. They're both playing into each other. So by me wanting to inspire and empower people to find the unique, beautiful thing that makes them special in the world, and we all have it, despite what we've been told. Me wanting to do that with clients that don't have that yet, or that might need a little bit of encouragement to quite get there and really own that, is sort of coupling with the people that are coming to me for design work at the moment are all people that have achieved that in some way. So they're at a moment, I call them the inspired professionals. They're at this stage in their life where they're coming to me to put their brand to life in visual form, and it's a crossroads for them. So they have done a lot of work, done a lot of searching, have a really unique and sometimes sort of painful story to come to where they are at the moment. And then they've got a whole heap of expertise and knowledge in a certain area. And the third thing is they've got this really unique point of view that just puts their work in a completely different light. And so all of these paths are just converging into their, what I would call in magical terms, their true will, which is their unique inner divine spark, the way that it wants to be manifest in the world now. And so I'm sort of loving where my life is at the moment because I'm dealing with such inspirational humans, and hats off to all of them. You know, if anyone's listening, you know how important you are in the world and to me at the moment. But it sort of fuels what I want to do for others that might see that and want that and feel that that's for them as well, but they haven't quite gotten there yet. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's this nice little mystical balance at the moment of what's going on.
Well, I mean, it is uh, being real and showing who you are in your own magic takes a little bit of cultivating. And what's really interesting, and I love how this sort of segues in to how I've been following you for a long time, at least a few years, and I saw you post something the other day that resonated so much because you were talking about being a Leo and the want to be out there and to show yourself, and you're describing the want to be seen, and then there was the other part of you that felt like a hermit, wanted to just stay in, wanted to hold what you were doing close, and that for me, I was like, oh, someone who actually understands what it's like, because I've got those placements as well. But it is, I think as entrepreneurs, we all have that sort of internal fire of I want to be seen, but I don't, but I should, my favorite word, I should be
Absolutely.
positioning it like this, versus
Hmm.
how you really want to express yourself. And as an example, my audience are on LinkedIn, right? I work with CEOs in the corporate space. They are on LinkedIn. They're not on Instagram, but Instagram is like my creative playground. So I still post in there, and
Yeah.
I lean more to Instagram because I love it. But I use the same content that's on my Instagram on LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, it stands out like a sore thumb because no one's posting images like I'm posting. No one's got
Exactly.
any kind of mystical, magical sort of feel to it. So I'm out there, and even though that I should be doing more corporate looking content, and there is some of that. Uh, that's my expression. So how I'm interested in your perspective when you were writing that post and you were describing that internal fight, how much of that are you seeing with the people that you're working with?
It's universal. I'm quite convinced that it's universal with creatives, which is also to say that it's universal with entrepreneurs as well, because entrepreneurs
Yeah.
are creative spirits, and we've been taught that creativity looks a certain way, like I'm an artist or I'm a performer or I'm a singer, a musician, and it's just so not the case. I mean, we're only looking at a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what creativity actually is. And so entrepreneurs and creatives, I think we can use the term creative interchangeably there. It's the same
Yeah.
thing, the same force is running through both of those types of people. But I'm convinced it's universal. I'm convinced it's universal because of the people that I talk to and the struggles that they are going through. And, even now, after all of these years of trying to be masterful in their craft. But there was also a lot of traction on that Instagram post, and so many people like, oh, relatable, I hear you. Yes, me too, me too. And for all of these different reasons. And it really got me thinking because, I mean, I thought perhaps initially it was a me problem, and um, that the tension between the two poles, and that always sort of being an internal part of me. I thought potentially it was a me problem, and realize now it's absolutely not. And as creative beings, I think we're open to the dichotomies a lot more than the average person because I mean, I don't know why, it's how we're built, but we're capable of envisaging more, we're capable of experiencing more. And so, of course, our experience can go to the extremes, it can go to the two poles. So, rather than living a little slice of life in here or here or here, we're just like living the whole gamut of experience, right? And I think this is why spiritual people feel the same. It's
Yes.
just more of a space that we're playing with. And so it makes perfect sense that we're sort of playing with these different poles, and creatives do it in so many things, don't they? Like, yes, we want to hide away and we want to keep our work sort of special because it's part of our heart and soul, but yes, we want to be seen for that because we deserve to be seen for that, and like everyone does deserve to be seen for that special little something that they've got. And we've put in the work, and we're crafting something special. We're not just, sort of fucking around and
Yeah.
doing stuff for no reason. This is like soul-led, heart-led business. So of course we want to be seen for that as well. And so that's a dynamic that's really difficult to play with. But there's also all of these other things, like, and you would know for yourself, like I was thinking about it, there's this urge to have total creative freedom and do whatever you want and play and be curious in your creativity, but that doesn't work unless you've got structure to put
Yeah.
around it. Like if a client doesn't give me a deadline for which to present some design concepts, like I will fluff around on that for months and have. And I need the deadline and I need the structure to be able to put that into place. And there's all these other sorts of poles I think that we play with as creatives. I was thinking about another one recently. It's like there's this sort of philosopher within me that just likes to sit back and be alone and think about things and really ponder and muse for myself, trying to make sense of it. And it's a really sort of passive receptive state. And then there's that other part of me that just wants to make all the things, do all the creative work. And so that's another one. And there's so many. So I think as creative, we're sort of always doing the dance between the poles. And where magic comes into this is in the magical systems that I work with anyway, which are to say sort of more in the Western esoteric realm, there's this concept of the unification of opposites. And so it's no longer about a dichotomy or polarity. It's like polarity more as a spectrum. And so you as the magician can sit within at the center of that fulcrum, and you can go to different places when you need to. And you can use them at the right times for your benefit. And that's sort of where I think it would be helpful for more creatives to learn how to play, because it's quite easily you can get caught up in either dichotomy, can't you? Like, oh, I'm feeling really hermit like at the moment. It's like, oh, but I should be seen and I should show up on social media or I should send a marketing email. But if you stay true to the hermit just for a little while and let yourself be that, you can get new ideas, you can recuperate, you can reset your nervous system so you're not like, flashing and want to be doing all of the things. You can just relax and have more creative inspiration come to you. But then at the right time, you know that it's time now to jump over onto the other side and actually be seen. And showing what you want to show now actually sort of means more, because you're not just doing it because you should. You're not just doing it because that's what you do. You've thought about it. You've chosen your moment that feels right to you and you've jumped on to do it. So it's something that it can be seen as a bit of a negative, and a long part of my life I've seen that inattention as always something really difficult to work with. And so I can only imagine that other creatives find that inattention quite difficult to sit with as well. But the thing that I learned over and over and over again is that if you can learn to sit with it and be okay with the big long spectrum, then if you sit in discomfort a little bit longer than you might necessarily want to, you'll always get some treasure.
Of course,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
Finding that center point, I guess, and just intentionally dancing between the two rather than getting caught up in the identity behind, am I this or am I that? It's like, well, no, you're both. It's never an either or as creatives. It's always a both in my experience.
It's so true. And, to add to all of that, I love what you said about staying in the uncomfortableness, because there is a part as entrepreneurs, because our vision is so big, especially if you're a change maker, you want to be doing all the things, so that being on the move and all the making is exciting. But the
Yes.
uncomfortableness in the pause is the where all the gems are. And with that, like the sort of the third little spot that I just wanted to add in was when you're disrupting. And so for all the change makers that listen to this podcast, when you're disrupting, you're going to have to do things that are different and alien like out there. Sometimes it is in the extreme, like the LinkedIn post that I was describing before. That is disrupting. That is disrupting the beige,
Yes.
the continuous beige, where everyone's just posting what they're celebrating or the event that they went to. That doesn't tell me anything about your business. It doesn't share to me your soul. And so that's me disrupting there. But
Yeah.
sometimes some of the things that you create and the way that you are needing now to present in with your identity, and I'd really love for you to share more about your perspective about this, Michelle, is it takes a lot of courage to be disruptive in that way. And it takes courage to sit in your true creativity. And so how do you facilitate that change with the people that you work with in this new line of work, and even with your clients? Because some of them might feel a bit scared to put themselves out there in a new kind of a way. How do you help them surrender into that process?
Yeah, it's big because we've all been through that, haven't we? It's
Yeah.
like really, really scary to put something different out there and sit in that uncertainty of having no idea if it's going to be well received or not, or whether you're going to get burnt at the stake for that, metaphorically. And there's all of these different ways that you can work with that discomfort and find that safety. And I know, like we sort of sit in a beautiful place at the moment where the nervous system has gotten a lot of attention, and so there's a lot of excellent information and people out there teaching about nervous system safety and what have you, and somatic exercises to really ground and feel safe in that discomfort, right? That's not where I go. I use those practices for myself and sort of need to a little bit more, if I'm absolutely honest with you, because they are gold. But the thing that I like to tap into sort of sits like behind all of that, And I find that if I can have a visceral experience of the, again, I keep coming back, the words I use for this is true will. It's a thelemic school of thought, and it's essentially where, the divine hits the human and it all comes together to manifest into reality. And it's a path that you can choose, and you can choose to sort of cultivate. And so to me, the hack that I've learnt to use, and this has been my path through it, is to keep sort of doing processes to align to that. And usually it's sort of imagination work. So getting into, a relaxed, magical, receptive state, doing journeys into the ether to connect with the spirit of your true will, or your holy guardian angel, or your higher self, or whatever you want to call that, your North Star, to develop a connection to that. Because if you have a purpose and a strong feeling inside you that connects to that purpose, you're able to do more of the uncomfortable things. And I mean, I'm purely running on this at the moment because speaking about this is not comfortable for me at all. And I've been sort of shying away from podcasts and whatnot and talking about this sort of thing because it's, I'm a visual sort of processor, and I can put really big concepts and capture people's soul in graphic and symbolic form. But when it comes to actually putting things to words, that's a little bit hard for me. That's really challenging for me. But there is something inside me, and that connection just won't leave me alone now. Like, it's so strong that it just keeps tapping me on the shoulder and reminding me, remember, you've got to sort of get that new message out there into the world. Because, people sort of need it, but it's also for your own personal growth and evolution. It's really important. So don't be hiding away now. Remember, you can learn how to speak. You can learn how to articulate your thoughts a little bit better. Keep going, keep trying, keep moving, even if it's in small little steps. And so for me, like, that's sort of my preferred method, strengthening that connection and fortifying that so freaking strong that you have no other option, essentially.
I love that so much. I especially love that the universe prompted, like you did your post, and then I reached out to you from that post to say, hey, I'd really love for you to join me for a chat on the podcast. And you were like, are you sure? And I was like, absolutely. And it is, the universe is always orchestrating, and your higher self is always pushing you and leading you to these breakthroughs, and that uncomfortableness is it really it does stretch your nervous system, absolutely, and the somatic exercises are key. And I'm the same. I absolutely do them, and it helps just soften. I like to harden up. My shoulders end up, near my ears. Everything gets tight. I want to think my way through it rather than feeling. So it's a really, they're very useful. But I love how you challenge, and you teach and you share about how to connect with the higher self, to bring those messages in, to let your higher self lead you into this new work, into this new way. And I I was doing some work with Kylie Patchett. She's been on the show a couple of times as well, and
Yeah, I love her.
she's another storyteller. Yeah, she's a wonderful human and one of
Yeah,
my absolute favorite people. But in
yeah.
one of the courses that I did with her, she was talking about connecting to the soul of your business as well as your higher self. So doing that as a
Yeah,
separate thing where you're talking to your business, the soul of your business, and you're having a
yeah,
conversation and letting
absolutely.
the soul of your business tell you what it wants and needs as well. And it's really interesting because it kind of makes it easier that it's outside of you, because as entrepreneurs, the identity, because you want it to be an expression of you, absolutely, but sometimes this work is that's not all of who you are. And sometimes you can
Exactly.
I feel like and I'm definitely, you know, I'm one of these people. I have hidden behind my work so to avoid other areas of my life, right? So many areas. And and so I've formed it as part of my identity. But when you think about that, your business has its own soul, it's actually separate from you. And you're just using your
Yes.
communication and your higher self to bring all of that to life. And then it becomes actually, it feels easier. And now that I think about it, since doing that, it has felt much easier putting myself out there and sharing, and like my aesthetic has changed. And you can see
Mm,
that if you flick through my Instagram and you scroll down, it doesn't you can tell when things changed. And it would have been about that time that I was working with Kylie, but
mm.
it is hard to break that hiding behind the identity of your business and letting, like, it's so hard because you're trying to trust your higher self and cultivate that relationship, but also letting it go, letting it just be whatever it wants to be.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. That's a really important point that you make, isn't it? And gee, you could have been speaking straight from straight from my inner mechanisms and my journey as well. And yes, that it can be a bit of an escape, can't it? Because what you're presenting is like this ideal version of, your higher self. Like, of course, you think it's you, but of course, it's not healthy for it to be you, and it
Yeah.
can't be you. And that's putting a lot of pressure on you if you think that, your business is you as well. And therefore, if your business doesn't do so well, you're a failure. Or if your messaging doesn't land, that means it's a rejection of you as a human. And of course, that is all extremely detrimental. So we cannot be going there, right? And yeah, it took me a while to learn that as well. I tell you what, as soon as I have a practice that I do quite regularly now, if I feel myself sort of slipping back into that, and the Michelle of, me and Aleph, the business, become too sort of intertwined, there's sort of I guess in essence, it's like a bit of a cord cutting ritual that I'll do. And it's just it's just all in the imagination space. I'm not one to, bring out candles and get incense and do all of the ceremonial stuff. It's all accessible right there in your mind and in your imagination. So yeah, I will do this beautiful cutting ceremony, and it's lovely because you're seeing your business for what it is, and it's a vehicle, like a beautiful. Thank God we have the vehicle there to put, ourselves into the world while still keeping ourselves safe, because you don't want to put all of yourself out there. You got to leave something, or something special for you and your close loved ones and what have you. So yeah, I think I love that you brought that up. It's something that I haven't really heard many people sort of talk about, but it's definitely something that I've been through myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I love where this is leading, because it is something that I've wanted to ask you about. First of all, before I go into that, I just want to acknowledge that cord cutting is freaking genius. That is a genius. That What a beautiful genius thing to share with our audience, because I've never thought of even doing anything like that. I've done plenty of cord cutting in the past with relationships and
Yeah.
different, circumstances and situations, but I've never thought to do that with a business.
Mm,
And you're right, Michelle, there is a part of what you're creating and a part of who you are that doesn't actually need to be shared, and it is sacred. It is sacred for you. It is sacred for your close relationships. There is it's like the circles. Oh, like there's your close knit circle, and then there's
mm,
the people that maybe are our acquaintances, and then there's the big wide world out there. And not everyone gets to have access to all parts of you. And that's about boundaries, that's about intention, that's about self-respect and self-worth. And at the same time, and I love that, because that just feels like, it feels like a weight being lifted from the collective. Like they don't have to bear all of the things. Because when you're seeing that, at the same time, you're seeing everyone say, you have to share who you are, share the real you, share everything. And it's like, I don't
yeah.
actually want to share everything. When I'm having a mental breakdown because I'm feeling uncomfortable in my stuckness creatively, and I want to be like I'm in a ball on the couch, crying, huffing, tantruming, doing all my avoidant things. I don't
Yeah.
I'm not I don't want to share that, right? If people ask me about that, I'm more than happy to talk to it, but I don't want to hit record on my
Mm.
phone or whatever and film myself when I'm going through a deep
Yeah.
breakthrough. And it has been my biggest bugbear about social media, truth be told. I've spoken about this many times, and the people closest to me know this is something that I rant about often,
Yeah.
is when you're in that deep state, where is how is your brain going to, I'm going to press record and feel myself crying to share this? I don't, that, there's a part of my brain that just says no and I can't accept it. But
Yeah.
I, you get, there's this conflict of, you need to show yourself being real and you need
Mm.
to hold this sacred. So
Mm.
how do you encourage and teach people to find that balance and to give themselves permission to hold some things close?
Still working it out for
Yeah.
myself, if I'm perfectly honest with you. Um, but also too, I think this is why branding can be so important. It's like a suit of armor around you. Like it's this way that you can put your best foot forward and put yourself forward professionally so that in the background, if you do have a vulnerable day, and even if you do want to share about that, I mean, yeah, look, I too just can't get over people like having a meltdown on social media either. Talk about avoidant. I mean, you're just taking yourself out of the organic, like alchemy of that situation, and putting a camera on it just changes the whole dynamic. So that's just, yeah, I'm with you. That's just not helpful, I don't really think.
No.
But yeah, I've sort of lost my train of thought there. I go off on little tangents and then can't bring myself back.
Me too, me
But yeah,
too.
yeah, it's the creative brain, right? But look, I'm still working that out. For me, I know that if I have like this scaffolding around me that's beautiful graphics and it's really professional, and even if I'm wearing like the right clothes or I've put on a bit of makeup to come on a podcast, I can still just be pure raw me in the moment. It's
Yeah.
just that you've got these little window dressings that kind of make it a little bit more presentable to the world. And so, don't buy into this thing that you've got to be like super raw and authentic all the time. Like you can put little moments of that into how you present yourself for your business into the world.
Yes.
But I think we've lost with social media, and we're about the same age. I think we've sort of lost this. It's professionalism. To me, it's professionalism.
Yep.
And so we were brought up with that being a thing. So there was sort of, I mean, and it was a bit damaging, let's face it, because it was like you had a work persona and then you had your at home, your realness. And, they were two very separate things. You kept them very, very separately. But now it seems that we've jumped and we've just thrown professionalism out
Yep.
and we've just jumped into let me just share everything. Everything's raw and real and messy and gross and that's content.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. God,
We
yeah.
can again we can have both. We don't have to end up in either like basket on the ends of these spectrums. We can absolutely do both, and if we are doing both, I'm really sure it gives more meaning to our work. If I'm showing up every day on Instagram my raw unfiltered self, that's going to get pretty old.
Yep.
The message is going to be a little bit diluted.
Yes.
But if I craft my message a little bit more thoughtfully and intentionally, then that can have more impact. And also, too, if that can have more impact, then the one time that I do show up as quite vulnerable on social media, that can have its own impact as well because it's a little bit different. And so, again, like it's a time and a place.
Yes. And do you know what? I mean, this is so multi-layered because Yes, I'm of the vintage of you need to present yourself. However, it's not for performance because I do it now for me as a sacred ritual. When I
Mm.
choose the jewelry, right? I love jewelry. I'm obsessed with jewelry. The jewels that I wear for the day, that it's intentional. I'm choosing to wear this for this reason, for
Yeah.
what I'm calling in. The rings, the earrings, the clothes, the makeup, the way that I wear my makeup is intentional for me as a sacred ritual. And that's what they used to do back in the day. It wasn't ever for performance, it was an anointing. And so that is
Mm.
actually part of the magic, isn't it? But we've gone
Yeah.
from one extreme to another. And I understand people want to drop their masks, and absolutely they should. And even in the last podcast, I was talking about how you're seeing people presenting themselves with their branding, with their writing, because a lot of them are using AI now to polish what they're doing, but they don't speak
Yeah.
like that. So there's a disconnect. You know, how
Yeah.
I speak to you like this is how I speak on all of the things. And I'm in the video content, I'm practicing to soften and be a bit more comfortable in my body, but it's new and it's hard. And I'm not talking to somebody else, I'm talking to my phone, and that feels clunky and I hate it.
It's different. Yeah,
It
I
is.
can't do it yet.
Yeah, and I'm just letting it be imperfect, and that's fine. But if I showed up on LinkedIn, for example, and I was talking to these CEOs with my hair in a bun, the flyaways and no makeup, versus
Yeah.
actually putting a little bit of intention into the way that I'm presenting myself, well, they're two different things. One, they're not got that those people who I most want to help, that global change that I most want to create, I won't be able to do it as effectively like that,
Mm. Yeah.
and so it's not throwing everything out. And I think it's really giving yourself permission to think about this on a deeper level, because again, it's not about it is not about not being professional, because you can be professional with no makeup. If you don't ever wear makeup,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's not for that.
Exactly.
And you
Yeah.
don't need to do it because you have to, but think about how you're taking care of yourself, how you're setting
Mm.
the intention for this conversation, for the work that you're doing, for the person that you're exchanging energy with. What are you best positioned should be the question, right? Like, are you in your truest version? And I think sometimes it's easy to just be naked with a trackie on, and sometimes on the fly things like that randomly are quite effective. That is a
Yeah.
good strategy, but maybe
Yeah.
not
People love it.
totally, but maybe just not all the time. And
Yeah.
and so I love those points so much. I especially love how you were talking about using structure to
Mm.
enhance the creativity as well. Like that, using your intuition, using the structure, and keeping them together to really build out what you want to express creatively, and letting yourself just be there, and not hijacking in the most important times when you are having those really stuck messy moments, like letting yourself just be in the imperfection with it all, and just pausing, just staying there, not breaking out of it, not escaping out of it, not trying to think your way out of it, but just letting yourself be in the mess. And that does take practice. And I love that you were saying that you're still as a human, creative human, heart-led human, that you are still practicing that as well. I feel like that's really reassuring, because when from someone on the outside looking in, you look like you're already there. You look like you've got it all handled. And so it's kind of it's humbling to know, yes, you know, it's always going to be a work in progress, because there's more of you to discover, right?
Exactly, all the time, all the time for all of us. Yeah, that's it. And it's also it's funny too because in the world of entrepreneurship and Instagram and putting yourself out there and whatnot, there is also a big thing about authority these days, right? And owning your authority and presenting you as an authoritative voice in the space, like you do know your shit and you've got everything together. But no one is like that. No one knows
No.
anyone who is like that. And so, yeah, I'm certainly not afraid of sharing the constant inner journey that happens to what we're all seeking personal mastery, but no one's there. I don't know about you. No one in my life that I know is there.
No.
I'm certainly not there. Even the people I respect most in the world, they're not there. Like we're all just humans,
Yeah.
like having a play and in humanness. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Let's just all like be more okay with it.
It's really interesting because just surrendering to that concept is one thing. And you also mentioned something else that I just want to circle back to around not feeling like you have to post all the time. Something that I did recently was, and I like to sanity check to humble my brain and just to just to bring me back from the edge of I'm not doing enough, which is a very old program that I am, it's like a beast that I have to continue to control. Um,
Yeah.
doing more, doing more, doing more. I put in my strategy and I put some content in. In fact, I put in all of my website content into Chat GPT and I asked it to give me an assessment about where things are at. And it was very humbling and I loved it. But one of the things that really stood out to me that's relevant to this conversation is that it reminded me that I was posting too much, that 5 days a
Mm,
week was too much. And sometimes it was 7 days a week, but mostly it was five. And it said, you're not an influencer. This is not part of your brand. This is not even part of your strategy. So you don't actually need to behave like that. And the posting multi times a day and the stories and all the things that you don't, this is not, it's actually diluting your brand doing that. And I was like, oh, really? Is 3 times a week, which was the
mm,
recommendation, is that enough? I don't, oh no, oh no, but how is someone going to connect with me if they're only seeing me 3 times when all these other people are posting every minute of the day? And it is something that I'd really like our listeners to stop and pause and think about. Do are you trying to be an influencer? Is that part of your business strategy? Or is it
yeah.
that you are wanting to be an authority? And I know for me, it is I want to be an authority in my field. In I am change making with business leaders of very high, large organizations. They don't want an
Yep.
influencer coming in to tell them what to do. And I've already got I'm a female as well. So I've already got that
Yeah.
female talking to men. That's a whole other dynamic that I've got to think about as
I
well.
bet.
They don't
Yeah.
want an influencer. That puts them off. And they're of
Yeah.
an age bracket and vintage that doesn't work for them either. So
Yeah.
it was like I was working harder and harming what I was doing. And I didn't think about that. And so I really like um, I'd really like our listeners to really ponder that concept. Do you really need to do as much as you're doing to have impact? And think about what is right again from a strategic perspective, because what you think is may actually be doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's right. And
yeah,
I think if you've got a really strong message, it is worth so much more and it has so much impact and lands when you're not doing the underlying energy to me of posting every day, sometimes multiple times a day, is I'm so desperate for you to see me. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
yeah,
And I can't rest until I'm seen. And that's just not the energy that a masterful business wants to come into the world with, is it? It's like,
Totally.
no, 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 you trust what you're doing so well that you don't even need social media. Like, you've got to have that sort of feeling within. That if
Yeah.
social media was taken away from you and your whole account got deleted, like
Yep.
tomorrow, where are you sitting now? Are you going to freak out because you're so scared that no one's going to see you? Or have you been building something like slowly and steadily, with really strong foundations that you can keep moving with?
Yeah.
And look, also, too, I'd like to put it to everyone out there that posting less on social media works for everybody. Because how many times do you log onto Instagram? And Instagram's my playground of choice as well. And back in the day, it was beautiful. There weren't so many people on it. People weren't posting every day. And so the content was better. But now,
Yeah.
because everyone thinks they need to post so much, their message is being diluted. Their content is just turning to like pulp fiction rather than a good novel. And there's too much. And now you're sitting there, it's not a mindless scroll. You're hunting for good content because there's
Yes.
so much mediocre content out there. So I'd like to actually encourage everyone from a user point of view on the gram, if
Yep.
you pull back a little bit and don't post as much as you think you need to, one, your message is going to land with more impact because it doesn't have that desperation energy underneath it. But two, you're actually going to make the platform better for all of the thoughtful, intelligent, creative, meaning seekers in the world. Just make it better for us, if
Yeah.
nothing else.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you know, it was at the end of last week, I want to say, Mel Robbins posted something about how, from a psychology perspective, and I'd really like to delve into this with you now, is from a psychology perspective, if you grayscale your phone, it it uh reduces the amount of time you're spending on social media. I think she said by between 40 and 70%. And so I immediately went and grayscaled my phone. Now, what the intent is to let your phone just be a form of communication like it was in the old days, right? And
Yeah.
going on social media when it's on grayscale is so boring. It is so
Yeah.
boring. You don't even like the people that there are some specific people I follow that I want to hear what they've got to say in the morning. Like it's on a spiritual level. Like I want to get the downloads of the day, and that's it. And then after that, I've reduced my social media time down to 30 minutes because everything what was appealing to me before was no longer
Yeah.
appealing. And so this is
Yeah.
also a way to, and then I went and had a look to see what my Instagram looked like in grayscale. Looks amazing. I
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
satisfied. Awesome.
Yeah, yours works. Your profile works in grayscale
It does.
actually because
It
it's quite
does.
limited in
But
palette already.
yeah, that's right. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, awesome. So
Yeah.
so that satisfied both parts of my brain. But I
Yeah.
recommend people try it and see what it feels like because when it's in grayscale, the things that really like the high quality content th- stand out more versus the ones that are just
Mm.
spamming stuff out, and so
Yeah.
it's a really great way to test your own content, but also a really great way for you to reduce how much time you're spending on social media. And it's been my favorite thing to learn recently. But I wanted to
Yeah.
talk more about because it's such a big part of your experience and your work as well, the psychology part of your approach to creativity, to play, to transformation. So can you talk more to how all of that wraps in?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's a little bit difficult because those sorts of worlds, the psychological, the making sense of, is just such a natural part of who I am. And so, sometimes when something comes very natural to you, it's a little bit hard to pinpoint yeah, where the pieces fit and how that looks. But a really good example is actually in my design work. So, and I am a bit of a Carl Jung nerd and I love depth psychology, and it's really helped me in my life make sense of my journey through life. And myth and archetypes and things like that is just like, oh, thank God I understand it all now, which is saying a lot for me. But for example, with my branding clients, what we do is go through a process which is sort of like a depth psychology process within a marketing sort of framework. And so we'll look at a business in terms of its brand archetypes. And this is something that a lot of designers do these days. But I do it a little bit differently, and I definitely go very deep. So, I mean, obviously, the idea with archetypes is and we're all pretty nousy and savvy with archetypes and what they mean these days. But essentially, archetypes are just universal patterns in the unconscious that all humans have an innate understanding of. It's like there are all of these little sort of templates that we can belong to out in the world and in our inner world as well. And so the idea with brand archetypes is if you can present yourself visually aligning to a specific archetype that your brand most personifies, then your messaging is going to be clearer because it's being presented to humans that know all of those archetypes, and innately they understand who you are, and your vibe and the ethos and all of that, just based on some visuals. And so, but the way that I like to do it, for example, is to go in, I ask a lot of key questions. There's a big journal that we fill out together, and we narrow it down to 3. It's usually 2 or 3 brand archetypes. And so this is one of the ways that I guess I bring psychology into creation and what I do. Because essentially I'm just really trying to get to know the other person, and again, finding that little spark inside that makes them unique in the world, and that makes them special and makes their heart light up and sets their soul on fire. And putting that within an archetypal framework to then present out to the world. And it's interesting as well because, you sort of brought up before one of the other dichotomies of the creative journey is the free-flowing, the curiosity, the intuitive versus the framework. And the framework was actually a way of me setting up, because I knew that I intuitively knew exactly who people were when they came to me. Like I knew that I could just have a 90-minute conversation with someone and be like, all right, got you. I can totally go and do this now. But I felt like that wasn't enough and that I needed a framework. And so the framework was really there to give some substance to what I already knew. And so every time we'd be filling out the journal, we'd be having the big chats, and I'd be going through all of their information that they'd given me, acting as though I'm looking for brand archetypes, where in actual fact I knew what they were, and I'm just like ticking off, oh yeah, that's what that archetype would say, that's what that archetype would say, yes, I'm right. It's a way of checking my work, so to speak. And it was a way to give, a little bit more credibility to the strategy that we were doing, that wasn't just, oh, I think Michelle's a bit psychic. I mean, you want a little bit more substance to that, right? I mean, there's a lot of people claiming to be all sorts of things out there these days, there's charlatans out there. But it's also really useful as well. Like it seems that, I was just using it as a bit of a safety net, but every time I do use that in terms of creation, especially relational creativity, so creating for another person, which is completely different from just creating for yourself, it would always be a really useful thing for the client to understand about themselves. It's almost like putting a mirror up, and you know certain things about yourself, but again, when things are so natural to you, you can't always see them. So to have someone have a structure, find where you sit within that structure, even in your most complex creative self, you can still fit within the structure, and to have that structure shown, I think it's I've had feedback that's the favorite part of the whole like sort of creative branding journey. It's just that getting to know, it's like psychoanalysis, but in marketing for branding. So it's really quite fun. Everyone loves to deep dive into the inner mechanisms of who they are to find the gold. It's just like a treasure hunt.
Well, it also
Yeah,
helps them feel seen, right? It's probably the first time that anyone's really spent time seeing them in their full self. And of course,
yeah.
that makes total sense why they love that the most.
Yeah, I know. Say, I mean, if someone did that for me, oh, I'd
Yeah.
adore it. I mean, just hearing you introduce me on the podcast, like, oh yeah, I am all of those things.
Oh my God, Michelle. No, it can't be a surprise. No, I mean, I have that as a the same as you. I have that as a gift and an ability as well. And
Yeah,
I love, I love the extremes that it comes with because with your work, your people are wanting to be seen, so they're choosing that. But I like making people feel seen and super uncomfortable when I'm out socializing. That's one of my favorite things because so
yeah,
I see you and like I see the best of them, but they're shocked when I acknowledge something that maybe someone hasn't acknowledged about them before or their
yeah.
inside
I love that.
and so I
Yeah,
can feel them squirming and it amuses me. But you're right, the structure is important, but it is such an important gift. When you look at change makers and entrepreneurs, do you think that most of them understand their archetype, or do you think that they're a bit hit and miss with it?
it's a funny question. It's a funny thing because, yeah, okay, the easy answer is yes. Most of them know, but they haven't had anyone mirror it to them and they haven't been able to put it into words. They're too close to the project, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that you're stuck on something, you step outside, you're like, oh, hello, yeah, that's the solution. So I think that's a case with a lot of entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs. Because when you do show it to them, there's instant recognition. Like they get it. It's not like they ever see what their archetypes are when I present them and they're like, oh, that's really interesting because I thought I was blah blah blah. Some insert other strange random archetype here. So they know, but they don't know that they know, if that makes sense. And so I don't know, that's why relational interacting is so important for people. And this is one of the things that I'm reminded of all the time with the whole hermit want to be seen dichotomy. It's like being seen isn't just about someone seeing you. It's not only about you, it's about you wanting to share something with another person.
Yep.
So there's this lovely sort of symbiotic relational interaction there. It's not just wanting to be seen as an entrepreneur or as a creative or as a human being, especially in the spiritual community when you've done all the work. It's not an egoic thing. It's
Yes.
not just an exhibitionist thing. It's about, well, I spend a lot of my time listening to others. I want to also be in that exchange. Yeah. I don't know where
Yes.
that came
So
from.
true.
So
No,
important to
no,
say.
no. I love that, Michelle. I love that so much. And it's true because you 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 depending on who your audience is and depending on whether it's male and female, whether it's just female, whether it's just men, those things change wh- those things change how you want to be seen.
Yeah,
And there
true.
is so much of the psychology attached to that because when as a female, let's say, talking to men, which is my audience, I've had to break through from a psychology perspective, my want to just tell. I want to go in there. My natural
Mm.
way, right? My passionate natural way is just to go in there and tell them what the fuck to do and go, this is
Yeah,
wrong. You're treating your staff like shit, like in my unraw, like unfiltered.
yeah.
But that is not going to connect to that audience. And so I've had to trust, right? Like no one wants to be talked to like that, right? And also it's not
Exactly,
taking
no one.
into no, but it's not taking into account their psychology as well, because from a psychological perspective, they want to be respected and acknowledged for all the work that they've been doing.
Yeah.
They have also been on the receiving end of all the patriarchy, which is why they're behaving the way that they are. It's so
Yeah.
multifaceted. And then there's the other
Yeah.
part from a psychology perspective. It's like I want to protect myself from these men that I've been, on the receiving end
Mm.
of. And so it's about breaking all of these things down. And that also forms part of the archetype process because you all of those things, and that's why the internal work and the spiritual work is so important, is when you
Mm.
take all of that into account, in with your creativity, in with your knowing, you're going to be
Mm.
better placed to surrender to your archetype, to express it out creativity, like creatively, to
Yeah.
allow someone like yourself to lead the way and surrender to, like, oh, I can be gentle and compassionate and loving with this audience. I don't have to be proving because I'm a female. I don't have to be telling because I'm angry. And I can still be
Yeah.
passionate without that. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is it is one of the real standouts of working with someone like yourself, because you bring all of those elements and understanding in for your
Mm.
clients, whether it's the clients that you create work for or the people that you're leading. You're helping them understand that there is
Mm.
more to just putting shit out there on social media than meets the eye. It's more than just it looks pretty. There's lots of ways. I mean, Canva makes it very easy to make things look pretty. But
Exactly.
if it's not anchored in the magic, if it's not anchored in with your high self, with the soul of your business, then you're going to miss the mark. And if you don't understand the things that are driving you and where you're coming from, if you're not, and you said this so beautifully, if you're not thinking about the energy that you're in before you create,
Mm.
it's going to get blurred. Those messages are going, and they're not going to hit as hard, and you're going to start playing into some of the other streams that might be active. And right now, when you look at the
Mm.
world, there's people are mad. They're mad about how the world is. Change makers in
Yeah.
particular, our work is because we can't stand the way that the world is right now. And so I think
Yeah.
there's like a
Yeah.
real mindfulness that needs to come about, is it your anger that's driving this conversation? And how can you weave it in with magic and with
Mm. Mm.
intention
Yeah.
for your best expression? And I feel like you are one of the things that stood out to me about your work, Michelle, is you are showing people how to do that with grace and with ease. And I think that needs to be acknowledged.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
just
very
take that.
much for that.
Just take all of that,
Yeah,
Michelle.
yeah,
Just take all of
yeah.
that.
I will. Yeah, I'll take it. It's very nice to be seen. I'm quite often the seer, so to have someone see me is simultaneously confronting and absolutely beautiful. So
Love it. Love it
thank you
so much.
very much for that.
How
Yeah.
how do you stay creatively inspired? Like what's your way?
Yeah, this is the magic ticket, isn't it? This is the big question. How do you stay creatively inspired? I think the answer is you don't.
Yeah.
It's my greatest learning anyway has been, and especially when you're creative as a profession and you're meant to be creative on tap and you're meant to be creative every day. I spent a lot of my life and career, creative career, searching for the things that would give me the inspiration to be able to keep up with that pace. Create every day, be on demand every day. And I don't think there's a way to do that. We're not machines. Like one of the things that I say is the imagination is not a machine, it's a creature and it needs to be cared for. And so always chasing inspiration is like a dopamine hunt and it's a dopamine depletion and it's never going to end well. What more works for me is to just take a step back. And I'm a big fan of the void, the creative void. the place where everything exists and nothing exists, the place that some people find really scary because they don't know how to categorize it. And what do you mean it's nothing and it's oblivion, but it's also beautiful, fertile soil where all the ideas come from. If ever I'm feeling creatively stuck, and I mean, look, I fall off this horse all the time, right? Because we're very programmed to keep creating, keep finding the solution, find the solution, find the inspiration, find the inspiration. And I still do that. But now I catch myself doing that. And I'm
Yep.
like, oh, I see what's going on here. I'm in the hunt. I'm on the hunt. The hunt's not going to pay off in this scenario. Take a step back. Take an afternoon off. Take 2 days off. My clients know my work needs space for the right stuff to fall in, to show itself for me, to reveal itself so I can put it out there. Every creative needs space.
Yep.
You just can't treat your creativity like it's a machine. And in my experience, the void is where I find the inspiration. So the void can be me going for a walk without my phone for 20 minutes. It could be having a bath. It could be actually going into deep meditative ritual to purposefully go to that space and sit in that space for as long as I can. So it looks a lot of different ways, but they're all ways of finding that mental space and having that mental clarity. Sometimes I'll put on a TV show that I've watched a billion times before. I know what to expect. I can sort of zone out a little bit. And in that space of slightly zoning out a little bit, on hour 2 of a show I've watched many times before, bing,
Yeah.
inspiration hits and you've solved the problem. So it's all about space. It's all about the void. I think it's one of the main things that creatives should learn to like experience for themselves and consciously seek out. Because I think to me that's, I mean, you're going right to the source. Like this, like the quantum realm, isn't it? It's like it's a
Yep.
pure possibility there. And like this is what the word Aleph means in Aleph Studio. It's that realm of pure possibility just before it starts to hit manifestation in the real world, in the physical world. That's where I like to hang out to get my cool ideas, whether that's consciously and ritually or whether that's in really mundane ways with TV shows and
Mm.
cookies and walks. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I love that. And especially with AI being so prominent, and you can see people who are, and I'm noticing this particularly on Instagram and LinkedIn, is people are churning out social media content that has been taken from AI. And there's nothing wrong with using it. Use it to sanity check how you're wording things for spelling, for structure. That's fine. Do that. I recommend that you do. Absolutely. But you can see where people have caught on, oh, I can put this random thought about what I want to talk about, and AI creates it, and I just start spamming. And it is noticeable and it is disgusting, and hence why I'm going to continue to grayscale my phone because I'm just like, ugh. But it's diluting the people who are really talking with depth as well because there's just too much.
Yeah.
There's just too much out there, and so when you're talking about creativity not being a machine and it's not something you can push, it is AI is pushing it. AI is being creative. AI will give you 7 billion trillion infinity ideas. And so if
Yeah.
everyone is operating at that speed all the time, that disconnect with each other is going to get worse. But also from an integrity perspective, and that's my number one value, it is breaking connection and trust with the people you're meant to work with. Because when they meet you and you can't talk to it like that you can't
Yeah.
even refer to one of the things you wrote about and how important that is to you and why that pisses you off or why that's a bugbear or why that creative inspiration and how to connect with your higher self is important. If you can't explain that with depth and intention and with truth and people can feel it, we're
Yes.
going to start having problems, and you've already broken you, and people are already so distrusting as it is. Let's
Yeah.
choose to not keep feeding this cycle. And yes, it
Yeah.
absolutely is harder to be in the void. And yes, it is a pain in the ass to have to meditate for a couple of hours or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is annoying and feels uncomfortable to walk without your phone. I to leave my phone to go for a walk down at the beach, which is my favorite place, feels uncomfortable. I feel naked without my phone. But
Absolutely.
but to choose to do that means that I'm choosing to stay connected. I'm choosing to stay in the truth. And all I feel like all of us have to, regardless of what we're seeing, especially as spiritual change makers in this community, with all the listeners, our audiences, the people who want to work with us, who know that that is what their soul is calling for, we need to hold ourselves accountable to that, and not try and skip into, I've got to treat myself like, and my work like a machine. The soul of your business doesn't want that. And as a creator, I'm a fellow
Yeah.
creative as well. I, you know,
Yeah.
I there's just no way. It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that, and it feels clunky, and it feels harder. It takes longer, and
It's
it
longer.
takes
Yes.
takes way longer. And so yes, just staying with that is so integral, and I love that. I love that you shared that, and that is true. All true creatives know that that's what it takes. But we want to escape those uncomfortable feelings. We want to escape the void. That void is like the worst, but it's also the best. It's where
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
it is, and it's a conflict. And yeah, I just love that. Michelle, how can people best connect with you? How will they find you? I know you were referring to Instagram, but what's the best way?
Yeah, well, I am under Aleph on Instagram. If you search it, you will find me. There are a few. You'll know me as soon as you see me, though. It's like
Yep.
underscore underscore Aleph underscore underscore. It's right there. It has gravitas. Or my website's probably the best way for people to come and get to know me a little bit more. Go into the two streams of my work and who I am as a person and all that jazz that we have on our websites, and that's www.aleph.studio. So
Yep.
no .com.au,
Yep.
aleph.studio.
Love
And
that.
those are the two predominant places where I hang out. If you found what I was talking about remotely interesting, I do have a little newsletter that I put out every now and again for people. I hate to spam, not that kind of girl. Spacious. I'll only ever say something that I think is important and poignant. Yeah, or follow me on Instagram. I mean, Instagram is where I share more of my creative work. I don't always update my website with portfolio items, for example. You can see, the cool and exciting entrepreneurial change makers that I'm doing branding for. And yeah, you might find other little pearls of wisdom around there as well. But also too, what I have been doing, and these are always on the website and always on Instagram promoting. I've been doing creativity workshops that bring magic into play. So it's all essentially creativity training ground, but we're doing it a really fun way, where I get to teach a little bit about my particular flavour of magic in those circles as well. And there's a workshop actually coming up on the 10th of July, if anyone's interested in that. I am sorry, that one is only for females. Sorry, boys. My favourite clients are men. I love them. But for this one, it's women's only. So if any men are listening, I'm sorry, but come and, have a look at what I'm doing anyway and
Yep.
stick around because the workshop's usually for men as well. But yeah,
Awesome. I'll be sharing the links to all of your work and your platforms anyway, Michelle. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me, for answering my random Instagram DM and invitation. I've loved our conversation, and I'm a big fan of your work. I love your approach. I've loved everything that you've shared today, and I think the audience have got lots of good things to think about, and to come back to that center point around creativity, around what we're energetically putting out into the world, and what we need more of, what we need less of, and that it's okay to have that moment of wanting, like that flux between wanting to be seen and wanting to be a hermit and holding some things sacred just for you. I love that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so glad you slid into the DMs randomly. It's been a wonderful chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. See you soon, Michelle.